hardship.
No,
and-
they're agreeing to it, but then he gives them, there's quite a
Well,
covenant that they have to follow. There's a lot of rules.
He set him up.
Yeah.
The Holy Ghost set
He
up.
set him up, because ever since Abraham's time, he has been working with this group of people. He's been giving them ways of life and how to treat your children and your wives and how to treat them. And he's been slowly, and you can see that they have inch by inch, day by day, separating themselves from all the other nations of the world.
True, they
To the
yeah.
point that by the time they got at the foot of Mount Sinai, they were a total different people. And suddenly now he is the manifestation of all the things that he has been teaching them. And so I don't think there was any hesitation. It was just instantaneous. Just like, of course, they call it the wedding ceremony between
Oh,
the
yes.
bride, humankind,
On Sinai. Mhm.
the groom, God. And so many times in love situations, you don't have to say, you know, will you marry me, or these kind of things. It's just, it's what it is.
And I must have missed something. Again, we're talking about the battle.
Uh-huh.
It's Moses, Aaron, and her.
Yeah.
Her.
He turns up a few times.
You
Yeah.
ever heard of Ben-Hur?
That's him.
Chuck, again.
No, his son has been her.
Right.
Ben him.
Charlton Heston again?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know where her came from.
I just, because I just went, who?
It's not him.
And not him, it was her.
That's right.
Anyway,
Can't see.
Right.
It's all blurry.
Oh, gosh.
Need
I hate,
glasses.
page 112.
112?
Page 112, huh?
112.
Okay.
Moses' father-in-law, Jethro,
Uh-huh.
Jethro.
priest of Midian.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay, he heard about everything,
God had
and then he offers sacrifice to God.
Isn't that
But
interesting?
he's
Yeah.
not Jewish.
No, he's not.
But they help.
They're not quite either there.
Well, but they join him in offering that sacrifice,
Right.
Moses
Yeah.
and Aaron and.
Yeah.
Because I was just that's the only time I see that. Because after it was all done, it was his father-in-law just returned to his land, but.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't part of the chosen people, ever.
But he was a believer, saying, "I
But he
know
was a
now
believer.
that the
But he
Lord
knew
is greater
God.
than all other gods."
Yeah, I was, well, Balaam
Yeah.
knew God, knew of him, knew that, he had to, he was supposed to obey him. And he wasn't Hebrew either.
Because they even say that they joined him in his sacrificial meal in God's presence.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is really incredible, kind of, when you think about it. But anyway,
Yeah.
I was just struck by that.
That could be why Moses was more ready to hear God, because he'd been for 40 years now with his father-in-law.
And his
That's close to
father-in-law knew God.
And so it's, yeah.
Could be.
Oh, that's an interesting thought.
But see, Moses never heard from God.
No, not until he came back.
At
Well,
this
until
point.
he was told to go back.
Mhm.
Moses never heard from God, because he was in Pharaoh's house for 40 years. Then he killed that Egyptian. He had to run another 40 years, and the only time
What about the burning bush?
Well, that's,
That's,
when he
well,
first
that's
had
when
that-
it started.
that's when it started.
Yeah, not before the burning bush.
Yeah.
Before that, yeah, he
So
didn't
how
know
did he
that.
know? I think he must have learned some things from Jethro.
Anyway,
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't he? Well, he was pretty young. He was brought up by his mother, but that was only for the first
Few
Couple of
months.
years.
2-3 years.
until he was weaned, yeah.
Oh, until he was weaned, whatever age that would have been, I don't know. 2 or 3?
17.
But after that, it's all Pharaoh and gods, multiple gods and everything.
Oh, gosh. All right, page 116, let's get into the sticky stuff. Let's
Oh,
get into
all
the
right, yes, there is.
commandments.
Uh-oh.
I like virtually all of them. All of
What? Oh,
I
what?
like virtually all the laws that are laid out here. But I do have a problem, the middle section of 116. When a man sells his daughter as a slave, she will, well, you knew I was going to pick up on this. She will not be freed at the end of 6 years, as the men are. If she does not satisfy her owner, you must allow her to be bought back again, assumably by her father, a relative. But if he's not allowed to sell her to foreigners since he's the one who broke the contract with her, blah, blah, blah. How interesting, these people are slaves. They were enslaved for over 400 years. God is bringing them into this new life, and it includes slavery. Now, with the man, they can serve 6 years and be freed, but women, too bad. You're
You
a
know,
slave, you stay a slave.
But the Bible.
That's because y'all the troublemakers.
Oh, no, you're in trouble.
Tell the truth.
Wow.
That's part of the problem with slavery is that it's not specifically condemned
Oh.
in the Bible.
Oh.
And it was used as a justification
It
in this
had,
country for,
you know they did during the Civil War. They'd say, it
that's-
says right
that's
here.
Yeah, that's what they said.
I know, they did.
So,
Our brothers and sisters were saying that back then.
But they did have in law that a man could not serve but 6 years or so. Yeah, he had to be let go in the 7th year
Yes, unless he chose to stay.
unless he chose to stay. So there,
These slaves,
it wasn't
Jewish
like
slaves?
we set it up, here,
God's speaking this to the Israelites.
bringing
Yeah.
bringing
Saying
people
this is the
over.
way it is.
yeah.
put them
But
in
they did
slavery
put time
forever.
limits on it too, even for the women. It was
Where's the
didn't
time
they-
limit for the women?
After the
No.
man will be set free after 7 years.
Only
Yes.
if she's married, and I think can she be set free with him.
She won't be freed at the end of 6 years.
Well, I don't,
But the kick out is that the owner's not happy, I guess, is the kick out.
Yeah.
I don't wanna be the one to side on the side of slavery, because I'm not.
I understand.
But a man set free has a chance to earn a living
Yes,
and have a position in society,
woman,
even if it's a foreigner. But a woman
she belongs to the man.
has no way of making a living, has no way of surviving.
She has no
Has
standing.
no status, has nothing. If she's set free to or from what? I mean, you know, she's,
To do what, yeah.
she basically is set free to starve to death.
It's
And
not like
so-
it is now.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, yeah. And so what, I think what he's saying
Well, I
is,
don't agree.
okay, you have a female slave, okay, if she doesn't get married or have a relative somewhere, she's yours, baby. You
Well,
have to
when
take
we-
care of her forever.
I feel like when we get married, we belong to our husbands.
Right.
We don't have to go out and work anymore if we don't choose to.
Yeah.
Now, if we have a hobby, yes. But we're not, I mean,
No, but-
Johnny doesn't make me go and get her go and get a job this week or you're out of here. No,
Right.
he says if you want, stay home.
Mm-hmm.
And he,
Yeah, but women didn't work that good.
That's true.
so yeah, I know. They were meant to take
They
care
were
of their
totally
husbands.
dependent on either their parents or their mate.
Right, so they're meant
Which
to
is why
take
they
care of their
arranged
children.
marriages, all the families.
Prior to World War One, yeah.
So,
So it was a different culture.
Yeah, for
Very.
sure,
Absolutely.
for sure, a different culture. A woman had to be connected with a man in some way in order to
And what
be
people
provided for.
fail to realize is slavery still exists in parts of the world.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Gee,
Uh-huh, yes.
Large chunk of the world,
really bad.
No, it's all over.
yeah, good. And actually here in America.
Yep,
Yes,
it's all
it is.
over.
Even some men treat their wives,
Well, that's.
even being
yes.
married, as, you can't leave this house. Can't have a job, you're mine.
I thought it interesting too how God set it up, what crimes were punishable by death,
Yeah.
Well,
besides the, the ones we're so familiar with, killing somebody, but, rape and, kidnapping, if you kidnap somebody, you got put to death.
Yeah, wow.
No.
Well, even the kids, if they dishonored their mother or
Yeah,
father.
yeah,
were put to
anyone who
death.
dishonors
Right,
his
they
mother and father must be
Yeah,
put to
you're in
death.
big trouble. I said,
Man, we
"My
could do
kids
away
went
with a
there."
lot of this writing stuff
Yes,
if we,
Well, if you just followed the commandments, it wouldn't exist.
right.
And it's just, it's not right.
So I went into Kabod.org. Kabod.org is the world's leading voice for education and understanding and teaching of
Of the
Orthodox,
Jewish faith.
of Orthodox Jewry. These people are super duper Orthodox. And I looked up 10 Commandments, and their statement was that even though they also use the term 10 Commandments in Hebrew school and all that, that when the Septuagint Bible was translated, the guy did a good job, but he put words in that he felt people would associate with and understand better.
Oh, really?
And so the Hebrew word, and I can't remember, that he translated into commandments, 10 Commandments, in Hebrew means statements. It's not a command, it's a statement, so it's called the 10 statements. They're just as binding, rules from God and all that, but it has a different kind of a flavor to it.
Sure does.
It does,
10
you know.
statements.
Well, it
Doesn't
does to
sound like
us.
commandments.
And just
then.
like the
Does to
word
us, it
Torah.
don't have it meant the
Did
same
it have a
thing.
different flavor for them? Statement, did it mean
No.
basically the same thing?
No, it meant the same thing.
That's the
Yeah.
same thing.
Meant the same thing. You think of it as absolute, positive,
Written in blood.
chiseled in
In
granite,
stone,
can't
yeah.
be erased. Probably they are more strict in their understanding than you are.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. Makes sense.
Cause you've got, besides commandments, you've got statutes,
Covenants.
Ordinances,
Evidence.
ordinances.
Good word, yeah.
I forgot what the,
precepts.
yeah, precepts.
Yeah.
They're all rather staunch.
Oh, yeah.
With the-
He don't mess around. He wants-
In line with this, cause I numbered the 10 statements. as I went down.
The 10 holy statements.
But, well, I just had, you know.
Go ahead.
And then, on page 116 at the very top,
Yeah.
116?
he says, God says again, and I wrote second time, you must not make any idols of silver or gold to rival me. And I just find it, cause you know what happens later,
Yeah.
and I went, he kept telling them, man. And he told them, it wasn't like, you know, wow. It just, you understand why they spent 40 years in the desert.
But you know, Aaron was doing that whole thing just as trying to buy time.
Yeah,
Okay, you wanna do this, let's do this. You wanna do this, okay, where are you, Moses?
Yeah.
Get down here.
but I mean, it gets rather involved with his statements as he goes on and on and on. I mean, he gets pretty specific about men fighting
Oh,
and
yeah.
then what do they call it? If you kill somebody by accident, you can go to another city that is
City of
designated.
City of
Refuge.
Refuge.
City of
Yeah.
Refuge.
One of the 6.
Or was it 3?
It started 3 and then it became 6.
Oh, okay, okay.
I mean, it gets very involved. I mean,
Oh,
talking
it
about
does.
oxes, and I mean, you go, wow.
They're very interesting.
But I guess that was very crucial to their society at that time too. The points that he's bringing up about animals and
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, that was what their wealth was.
You bet it was.
Animals and.
Yeah, you know, they had to have had a lot of sheep. Well,
Oh,
that's probably next week because it goes into all the sacrifices.
right.
But I mean, 2 a day. That's a lot of sheep.
Every day.
Yeah.
What 2 a day?
They had to
When
sacrifice
they
2
set up the
sheep a day.
sacrifices, yeah.
For Israel?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
that was part of what the priests had to do. Part of their job.
We're in our Bible study, we're in 1 Kings 8. goes again, but deeper into what you're talking about now. Oh, man.
What-
The amount of animals
Yeah.
and it just, what a
Was it Solomon or David that sacrificed 1,000 of them?
Solomon, and it was
Solomon, I
just
think,
a,
Oh,
at his
money.
inauguration,
Now, where'd you get all those sheep?
He's rich.
just the blood, oh my God, the
Yeah.
gore,
Yeah,
the
where
horror.
did it all go? Where did they put all that blood?
They had basins for it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, in cisterns and stuff?
Seas,
Yeah, they call it, yeah,
the
seas or
bronze
basins.
altar was only 7.5
Did we talk about
feet
that already?
long, and you've got 3 million people bringing animals all day long, every day. 7.5 feet long.
well, that
The
was
priests were
the,
I
busy,
mean,
weren't they?
oh yeah, the logistics of it. I
Yeah,
just don't
it's
know
kinda
how they
crazy.
ever.
I think that's
That
why
was
he had a
the-
whole tribe of them.
Yeah,
that was the altar for the tabernacle,
Right.
because they had to move it.
Mm.
But when they built the temple, it was 30 feet by 30 feet.
Well, that's where the big one is. Okay,
Yeah,
that makes
and
sense.
it was like
that
That much
makes sense.
thick.
That makes sense.
And they put all the blood in there?
All right, how about page 120?
Somehow?
I thought it was a wash, but that was a baptism, wasn't it? A
Okay.
washing, the basin.
Well, they had
They had
washing
that
basins,
too.
but they
Uh-huh.
had them actually built in the temple building.
Right, but I thought the one in the front with the altar was a baptismal type basin.
The laver on
The
the
big one.
bowls, yeah, that
The big
was in the courtyard, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that they had to wash in before they went into the temple.
As
Yes.
I told the women, I'll look into it.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
Homework.
And hopefully they'll forget the question next Tuesday.
I won't, I'm gonna write it down. What else?
120. The very bottom. See, I'm sending an angel before you to protect you on your journey and to lead you safely to the place I prepared for you. Pay close attention to him and obey his instructions. Do not rebel against him, for he is my representative. He will not forgive your rebellion, but if you're careful to obey him, following all my instructions, then I will be an enemy to your enemies, and I will oppose those who oppose you. For my angel will go before you and bring you into the land of blah, 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 blah.
All the ites.
This is
That's
fascinating.
powerful.
Think of all the angelic encounters in the Old Testament and the New. This is the only place I can think of. It is God's guidebook on how to relate to an angel, the do's and the don'ts.
Yeah.
do whatever he says.
Yeah, don't rebel against him.
Now, the real question is,
Uh-huh.
who was the angel?
Was it the angel of the Lord, the Melech,
Or was
the
it,
Messiah?
I mean, because the only thing that leads and guides them here is the cloud by day and the fire by night.
Mm.
That's right.
So how does that tie into the angel, you know?
I have no idea.
I know. This can lead you to wander some really interesting questions.
Back on page 113, he's just.
Hey, you're going backwards now.
That's okay, it's good, cause I can't go backwards
Because
too.
she went ahead.
Oh.
Anyhow, it's just a statement. You know, you have seen what I did to the Egyptians. It's on page 113.
Yeah.
You know how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself.
Mm.
I just love that statement.
Yeah.
What did God really mean by that?
It's kinda like
I've
the
carried you on
prodigal
eagle's
son.
wings. It doesn't talk about angels or anything there, but I just think that's his protection.
Do eagles
Yes.
carry their young on their back?
Yes, they do. Till they,
When they're
or
learning
they
to fly?
push them out of the nest.
Yeah, they carry it
Yeah.
too.
So it has,
Well, they have to, they drop
Quite
them,
a-
and then if they're falling, they go swoop them up.
Oh, these
And give 'em
fly under
another-
them and
Yeah, put them
Support
back
'em.
in the nest until they're mature enough to
Oh,
fly
wow.
on their own. But they scoot them
Quite
out of
an-
the nest.
nurturing image.
Mhm.
I
Push
just
'em
thought
out.
it was a good term
Absolutely.
for God to use.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's God talking.
I carried you on eagle's wings.
Some of these laws, it was, wow.
Yeah, I found it interesting.
Brought you to myself.
119,
He's bringing people to the
where he says, you must not mistreat or oppress foreigners in any way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, you yourselves were once foreigners. And that, he says that several times throughout.
Oh, yeah.
You must not dishonor God or curse any of your rulers, must not follow the crowd in doing wrong.
There's a timeless
That's
one.
very
I like that.
powerful.
That
was
applies
very
to this
profound.
evening.
Yeah,
Do not
I
follow
mean,
the crowd and do
absolutely.
wrong.
Because then,
No,
on the
no.
next page, he again mentions on 120, because I wrote second time, you must not
Right.
oppress foreigners,
Yeah.
again,
Mm-hmm.
and I just, but yeah, you talk about timely, I mean, I read those and they just jumped out at me.
Yeah.
What do you think that says to us today? Cause he does, you know, he says it twice, or maybe even more times.
Well, everybody's God's people.
Yeah, which statement are you referring to, Neil?
We must not oppress foreigners.
Oh, must
Right.
not oppress foreigners, okay.
Yeah, because he makes a point of saying it twice.
Yeah,
It's like ding, 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 you know?
how would that apply to us today?
You're not to oppress anybody
Well, that's
at
true.
all.
Mm-mm.
For it doesn't matter who they are, stranger or not.
Right.
Poor, homeless, smelly, we're to love them, care for them.
You're right.
Then, you never
Now
know.
as
You
them,
never know.
see past racial
Yeah, you
differences,
do, you have
cultural
to.
differences, skin color, see past that.
Um,
It's a choice.
you don't know, you might be entertaining angel. So,
Well,
there
see,
are-
we were all foreigners to God
yeah,
That's true.
course
until
we
we
were.
came into the kingdom.
Yeah.
And so therefore, we can't afford to oppress those that are not of God,
That aren't Christian
that
Right.
aren't Christian,
Gotta show-
because we were there.
or Jewish.
We were there. Mm-hmm.
And we should, our actions should be
volumes.
to, allow them to see who God is and want to come into the kingdom.
But does he not expect conformity? If he says you come in,
What do you mean?
accept the foreigners into our land, but does he expect them then to respect and follow
Yes.
the
Oh,
ordinances
definitely.
and the rules
Yeah,
of his people?
yeah.
Well,
Because
See-
America was always the, excuse my grade school education, the melting pot
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
where all peoples came in. But
Yeah.
today, people come in, but they stay separate.
well,
They
they
don't
stayed
want to-
separate in the past too, initially.
The ghettos,
Well,
like
all,
the
you know,
Italian
the
ghettos and
Italians,
the Irish ghettos
Oh,
and the
yeah.
Jewish ghettos.
you know,
and, yeah.
depending on where they were from.
And that makes sense.
And it's usually their children that turned everything around.
Right.
Because they wound up interacting more than their parents did.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I agree.
So, eventually, I mean, most people foreigners that came to this country met opposition initially.
Yes.
They didn't have an easy road.
No, they didn't.
And things changed. I don't know what makes this country do that, as a lot of countries never do. But- And I'm not saying this is the only country that does it, I'm just saying that,
Well, I think a lot of, it happens in a lot of places.
Yeah.
If you're not a part of who they are, then you're treated a little differently.
well, there's lack of understanding.
Well, it's also a lack of not wanting to be a part of what they are.
Right.
It's
Sure.
like, you know, it's like
And
those that
fear.
are coming in Now, from the Middle East and all, they want the Sharia law, you know,
Yeah.
and you can't do that.
It doesn't
No,
work
you-
that
no,
I mean,
way.
you're supposed to come in, I mean, whatever country you go into, you're supposed to become a part of them,
Yeah,
not try and force them to change what you are.
That's correct.
Amen.
exactly.
I can remember when I was in Germany, Phyllis and I did the utmost we could to learn the language and to understand
The culture. of the-
their culture.
To learn German?
Huh? Sprechen Sie Deutsch?
No, none.
That's all he knows.
Nine sprechen.
Well, I remember, well, I got to a point where I was,
That's a tough
we
one.
left, came back here, and I had to go back over for a short duty assignment. I was working with a German, kind of, engineer, and so I would try, and, you know, speak to him, and he said, you have good German.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
I was, I
Really?
wouldn't, I was surprised.
Woo.
But he said, you had good German, you ought to use it more. But,
Wow.
we tried to go places. Phyllis worked with a lady who was German, as a matter of fact, she was a Nazi,
Oh, my
Uh,
goodness.
Say that.
and she was working on a concern with her, and she would tell us all of the German places to go visit.
Mm-hmm.
Because most Americans there would only go to kind of the Americanish
Tourist traps?
German traps, yeah, tourist traps. But we didn't. We would go. I mean, most of the time we had to use our German because the guides and all didn't speak English, you know. But we tried, and we because we did that, and we tried to dress like them. You could always see an American because not only did he have short hair, but he was wearing jeans, and he had a certain way. We did everything we could not to be that way, but to be more like them, and we were more accepted than
As a
than a
result.
lot of the Americans, that were there because they were kind of flaunting
Their differences.
their differences and their Americanish, on
Yes.
them, and you can't do that.
Walk around with a
It's
camera
not my
everywhere.
country.
Take pictures.
Yeah,
know,
the
have
ugly
to-
American.
It's just,
Loudmouth, boastful.
Add no to every word you say. That's true.
What?
Add an O.
no.
Add an O to all your
Oh,
words.
add an O.
Yeah.
That's what I did when I went to
That's
Mexico.
how you speak Spanish,
Oh.
That's what I did when I went to Mexico. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't speak Spanish.
No, but
Creepola.
that's the ugly American. That's
Yeah.
just- I'm not going to learn. You learn my language, I'm not learning yours.
I like to hear, I'll say something on page 119. Is that not too far?
Okay, no, that's good.
No,
Okay.
that's
Oh, we've
good
been there
range.
several times. Go back.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, he's talking about all this sexual relations and all that stuff. You're gonna die if you have sex with an animal. Thank you very much. It goes down and says you must not exploit a widow or an orphan. If you do exploit them in any way, and they cry out to me, then I will certainly hear their cry. And boy, oh boy, you do not want the anger of God. He
I
sees
will
it
kill
all.
you with the sword.
And I will
Yeah.
kill you.
My blaze against, my anger will blaze against you, and I will kill you with the sword. Then your wives will be widows, and your children fatherless.
Boy,
He's gonna
poetic
make his
justice.
family
Yeah.
like what he just did.
Yes,
Exploit a widow and an orphan, I'll make your family.
Yeah.
Widows
I'll
and
make your
orphans.
family will.
that's right. What goes
An
around
eye
comes
for
around.
Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth.
That's right.
Oh,
And he
Wow.
means business. He sees it all. I think even if they didn't cry out to him, he would still,
oh, yeah.
Well, you
because
know,
he saw
I
it.
mean,
He saw everything that happened.
the rules he talks about here are like what we think of as Christians. Says if you borrow a cloak,
Mm-hmm.
if somebody lends you a cloak, give it to him by the end of the day, because how can he sleep without a cloak?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Don't charge interest. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the
seriously, I mean,
Do it
there's
from
a
your
lot
heart.
of,
Yeah.
there's a lot of fair play.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like bartering.
Well, it's like the Jewish, he said, I don't know if it's farther or it was in here, about lending money to forgive debts to a fellow Jew after a year.
7 years.
7 years, you would.
They weren't
take
that
the-
generous.
It says that right there, at the next paragraph.
I don't know if you borrowed in the 6th year.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
It talks about the lending of the money and the borrowing the cloak right there too,
Yeah.
where I was.
So, I mean, there's a lot of good principles.
There
that-
is,
that
I like
we
most of
assume
these, yeah.
Are Christian, but they're not.
Uh-huh.
They're actually God's principles,
Pretty much common sense,
you know?
yeah, yeah. Think about your neighbor and do to him what you would want him to do to you.
So we're not up to Solomon yet, right?
No.
No, oh no,
Solomon's way, way, way far away.
we're not up to David
We
even.
just studied him, and I learned something I never knew before. So.
Oh,
I was gonna say it, but it's way too advanced
On the last
for where we are.
I think it's
page
the
of our reading, when he talks, I find it very interesting when he talks about the nobles of Israel gazed upon God and he did not destroy them. In fact, they ate a covenant meal, eating and drinking in his presence. And I
gonna
wrote
s-
74 by that, if you add them up.
What?
70 elders of Israel
Oh.
climbed up the mountain, and on page 122. And they saw the God of Israel.
All 70 of them
All
climbed up?
70 of them.
These are old geezers.
Your eyes weren't all that good.
And
I
it says,
guess.
and though these nobles of Israel gazed upon God, he did not destroy them. In fact, they ate the covenant meal, eating and drinking in his presence. And the reason I came up with 74 was because it was Moses, Aaron, Nabab, Abihu, and 70 elders.
And the 70. And yet, here's my little bombshell for this group. John 1:18 says, "No man has seen God at any time." Explain that one to me.
You'll have to ask him when you get there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Well,
I
who
think
was
I
it that
will.
walked with him? And,
well,
who walked with God?
The disciples did.
it depends on how much he
Oh,
revealed of
Jesus. I
himself
mean,
to them.
Yeah,
Enoch.
Enoch walked
It
with
would
God.
depend on how much he decided to reveal of himself.
Because you could look at the lightning and the thunder and the dark cloud as being God when he came down on the mountain, you know.
Oh, and
they
everybody
were-
saw that, yeah.
And they were going, and they went up into that. So, but like you said, how much of God or what phase, was he in?
Well,
When
Enoch
he was
walked
there,
with
was he, I
God.
mean, did he show up like an angel, or was he like a bright light, or, we don't, it doesn't say, we don't know.
I guess not.
And then Elijah, remember when he was put in the crevice and God passed by and he saw his backside? So there's another person who saw.
That was Moses.
What? No. No, wasn't it, what's his name after the prophets of Baal? And he ran from Jezebel? Wasn't that when it happened?
Moses was put in the crevice. Because Moses said, I want to see you. And God said, I can't let you see all of me.
Oh, okay.
And so he put him in a crevice and
Oh,
walked
okay.
by, so I saw his backside.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong.
Wasn't that Gideon?
Now we've got
No.
3
No.
candidates for seeing the backside
To
of God.
research
Yeah, I
that.
think Gideon.
Well,
No, Gideon,
Peter
Gideon
walked
never
with
saw
God.
God. I don't know.
I love the story of Gideon.
I thought he was in the cave.
Cave of Adullam.
Okay.
I would say.
Isn't that where Gideon met the Lord in a cave? He was hiding.
He was hiding
He
in a
said,
Oh,
wine
no,
press.
it was a wine, it was
A threshing floor, a wine
yeah.
press?
Well, he was threshing,
Grain
grain in
Yes.
a
in
wine.
the wine press.
In a
See,
wine
there we
press,
go.
yeah.
I said, mighty man of warrior, whatever.
God is
I
with
think, I
you.
think it even says that the angel was sitting under the tree, watching him and said, "Hey Gideon, you mighty man of valor."
Yeah.
Here he is hiding,
Yeah.
threshing.
Yeah.
During time.
Well, if Enoch walked with God,
Yeah.
then if you're walking with somebody, you pretty much would see them. But like you say, maybe in a different,
Oh, he
Wait,
appeared like an angel.
Revelation.
I mean, like a person.
yeah, I mean, if you walk with anybody, you see them like they see you. she said, we'll have to ask him when we get there.
I like that. That's a good idea.
Yeah,
Everything will be revealed then.
Put it on your,
Yeah.
put it on your bucket list notebook.
yeah. Questions to ask God immediately.
I got a feeling when we get there, the questions are gonna be the last thing.
I think you just forget it all.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it won't matter at all.
You just embrace him and what's there.
And the
Yeah, I
glory
think
of
it's
it all.
gonna be in awe.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know years and years ago, I was going to a church in Tucson, and me and this guy was named Carpet. We was going there next job, and this girl was hitchhiking, and was having this evangelist coming to town. Says, I'm gonna stop and pick her up and invite her to church. I said, okay. So we stopped and picked her up. She got in the back seat, and we took off. And I started praying under my breath.
Mm-hmm.
And the glory of God came in that car so strong, he had to pull over. We couldn't even talk. We were sitting there in awe, and she was back there just crying and crying.
Oh my goodness.
So I know what being in awe is all about. You can't talk, you
No,
can't
Wow.
say nothing, you can't do anything. It's just like,
overwhelming,
oh, big time.
big time. Yeah.
Mm.
All consuming. That's all consuming that he
I wish
is.
it would happen to me again. Though.
You can't do a thing.
That was awesome,
Amen.
big time.
Hallelujah.
I got your books closed, so you must be finished. Father, we just thank you for your word, and Lord, just help us to see you more, to understand you more, to know you more.
Yes.
Lord, we just want to follow you. We want to be your emissaries here, your ambassadors, your priests, that we could just walk in what you have for us and allow the world to see it so that even Pahrump would come to know who you are. Lord, I just pray you just go out and touch lives, bring your healing, bring your love into this town, and that your kingdom would come and your will would be done
Yeah.
as it is in heaven, here in Pahrump. Go with us through the rest of this week, and we praise you in Jesus' name.
Amen.
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 Thank you, guys.